Hey guys, so this is my Pfaff 138. It's a vintage straight and zigzag stitch industrial sewing machine. It's pretty much like a Pfaff 130, which is a domestic zigzag sewing machine that's pretty popular, just kind of on steroids. It's beefed up. A lot of the components and the way that it operates are really similar to the 130. This one's just a little bit more robust. It has a gear-driven shaft instead of a cleated nylon belt, and this particular model has a pretty wide zigzag stitch. It's got a 6mm zigzag stitch. The Pfaff 130 has a 4mm, and then there are also other models of the Pfaff 138 that have a 4mm stitch width as well. So this one's a little bit more desirable, and I really like the machine. I just haven't been using it as much as I would like to, because I've had a few issues with it. Actually, I've had them since I got the machine, and I just haven't had time to sit down and actually address them. Some of those were timing issues. I was skipping stitches on reverse in certain situations, going through really thick material. Didn't happen all the time, but it was, one time in the middle of a project is enough to make me want to switch machines temporarily. So the other issue I was having the needle strike the presser foot. I was having issues matching up the forward and reverse stitch lengths. So I went ahead today, I had the opportunity, and kind of went through the machine. I fixed the timing, so the timing's fine. I timed the feed dogs, so now they're correctly adjusted. And I also was able to figure out how to match the forward and reverse stitch lengths. And I figured I'd do a quick video kind of showing what the process is to actually get all of those things in adjustment, mainly the feed dog timing and the forward and reverse stitch lengths. The actual hook timing, maybe I'll do it in another video, but it's kind of difficult to get a look in there to really show you what's going on, so it's tough to film. But anyway, so the feed dog motion. I guess I'll just jump right into it and kind of show you what adjustments need to be made and what it looks like when it's correctly adjusted. So the manual calls for, if you look in the manual, they'll have specific measurements for everything. So in this particular case, for the timing of the feed dogs, the way that you set it, the way that you actually adjust it, is you want to look at a couple things. One is you need to correctly set your needle bar to a specific location in its stroke to be able to figure out the setting. So what that is you want it on the rise 4mm above bottom dead center. So what you basically do is just set it on straight stitch or 0 stitch width. The length of the stitch doesn't matter. You can go all the way out, maximum stitch length, whatever. That'd probably actually even be better so you can visually see what's happening. So maximum stitch length, and you're going to drop it all the way down the needle bar to the very bottom point. So just rock back and forth until you get to the bottom. Now, the way that this is adjusted at the factory, or was adjusted at the factories, they have spacers and clamps on the needle bar to set everything up. I don't have that. I've thought about making something, but this method's worked fine for me on all the machines that I've had to time and adjust the feed dog timing on. So what I basically do is I'll drop the needle bar to the lowest point in its stroke. Let's see if that helps with the lighting. Maybe not. Anyway, so, and what I'll do is I'll look at identifying, like, really any fine marks on the needle bar, just to get as a reference point. So there's usually a point on the needle bar where you'll have a really shiny finish, and then it'll go to like a matte finish. So there's a clear line there. Sometimes you'll have actually like a ring cut in. It varies between needle bars. So you just look for anything that you can identify, measure, and mark. So what I'll do is I'll get like a business card sometimes. I'll get, like, this happens to be just a little piece of wood. And I'll remove the presser foot and I'll put it right next to the needle bar. And I'll take a razor blade or a really fine screwdriver and I'll just put in a little notch or a little mark right where that lowest point is. So I have a reference point. Then what I'll do is I'll take a ruler and I will measure 4 millimeters or 2 millimeters, depending on whatever measure or adjustment I'm trying to make. But in this case, it's 4, and I'll measure 4 millimeters up from my reference line that I originally marked. Mark it up 4 millimeters and score a little line there, or mark with a pencil or whatever, and then I'll go back. And then what you'll do is you drop it down. You drop it down. I think this is actually, I don't remember if I even had it right. Anyway, so you drop it down, you raise it up to 4 millimeters. Now what you want when you raise it up 4 millimeters is you raise the needle bar up 4 millimeters exactly. And what you want to have happen is when you operate the reverse lever here, so this is reverse up and down, you don't want to see any movement at all in your feeding dogs. So you can see I'm raising and lowering. You can hear it clicking in the background. I'm raising and lowering, and this is the adjustment here. And the feed dogs are not moving, perfectly stationary. That's exactly what you want. Now your feed dogs are timed perfectly, so it's in line with the feed stroke is in line with the needle penetration and everything. This is the way you want your machine set. What was happening for me was I had more of a setting like this, where at 4 millimeters, when I would raise and lower it, I'd get movement in my feed dogs. So I either had to, I had to change the timing on it. And the way that you do that, let me zoom out here and make it less disorienting for you. So, okay, so let's zoom out. The adjustment in the Pfaff 138, the 238 similar to, is right through here. So let me see if I can focus. Is it focusing? Sorry, it's tough with these point and shoot cameras. There we go. The adjustment is actually made on this, with this eccentric here. So what you need to do is you need to, let's see if you can see that. So you're going to loosen this set screw right here. See, focus, there we go. You're going to loosen this set screw, and this will allow this sleeve, which is on the set screw, sets it to the shaft, but there's actually a sleeve that runs all the way through here that's on an eccentric that adjusts the timing. So what you're going to do is you loosen this screw, and that will allow this to rotate, but it's going to be stiff. It's not going to want to rotate very easily. So you're going to have to play with it, and you're going to have to, you know, rock back and forth, loosen it, adjust it, and the way that you do that is take a pair of pliers and get a grip on these. If you can put a piece of tape over the face of the pliers just to kind of preserve this component so you don't scratch it up, I'd suggest doing that. But if you're careful, you won't mar the surface. And it doesn't matter anyway, because there's nothing contacting this. It's not like a contact point for anything, so it's not that big of a deal if you do scratch it. But you're going to hold that, and you're going to rotate the hand wheel. And the reason why you want to do that is you're not going to be able to get enough leverage to move this thing. So it's better to hold it in place with the pliers, and then you're going to rotate the wheel. And you may have to rotate it forward, you may have to rotate it back. You know, I don't know, it's going to vary between machines on how far they're out of adjustment. Mine, I had to rotate, I don't know, maybe 15 degrees towards the front of the machine to get that timed right. And so then that was set up correctly. And I was hoping that was going to solve my issues with the forward and reverse stitch lengths, but it did not, unfortunately. And I was able to fix it, but it took a little trial and error, and this is kind of I mean, some people don't care. If their forward and reverse stitch lengths don't match up, it's not an issue for them. They don't care. I do. I want the forward and reverse holes, that stitch to look really consistent. It just looks more professional that way. Sorry about the cha-ching in the Etsy app. But anyway, so the forward and reverse, I like them to match up. It gives a more professional finish. And so the way that I do that is I'll take a piece of cardboard and I will go and put it in the machine, and I'll do some forward stitches, just straight stitch, and then I'll do some reverse. Now sometimes I'll go over what I just did, or sometimes I'll go next to. So you can see in this, I'll go in reverse, and I can just see as I'm sewing that the reverse stitch length is not matching up at all. So I'll do them side by side so you can see what that looks like. So this is forward, and then in reverse. And so you can see the difference is pretty substantial. Forward here, reverse here. So the feed dog timing is set up perfectly, but I'm still getting an inconsistent forward and reverse stitch length. So it's a little frustrating. Once I knew that that was adjusted correct, my feed dog timing was adjusted correctly, I didn't want to mess with it, and I wasn't willing to just start messing around with that in hopes of trying to, solving it. So next I thought I would look at this. So what's basically happening is my reverse stitch length is too short. So when I go to raise this up, this is actually pivoting further in, so it's an arc. So what's happening is when you go to raise it, you get this stop block on the bottom and on the top here. The further down you go, the longer the stitch length, and the further up you go, the longer the reverse stitch length. So what I wanted to do was remove some of this material in this little alloy block back here. I'll show you in a second what that is. And then that would lengthen my reverse stitch length. And I was about to do it. I was about to take a file and just experiment and get it dialed in. And then I remembered that I actually had a spare part. So anyway, to get this thing off, if you don't have the spare part, which I'm about to show you, and you will need to access this to line this up, there's actually a couple pieces. There's this little assembly here. This is what puts the tension on the inside of this. So you basically just loosen this center screw. There's the center set screw. You loosen that, and then you loosen this outer. The spring will come out, and that will allow you to remove this knob here. So you can remove the knob. Knob will come off. This is actually one of the few plastic components, this and the dial. I believe they're Bakelite on this machine. So it's not 100% metal. The older ones actually had a metal knob, but not the newer one. Anyway, so this is the block, the stop block that I was referring to. It's an alloy, aluminum alloy stop block. So here it is, and I was looking at it, and it's totally flat on the back. And I remembered I have a Pfaff 545, which is a walking foot machine, and it's newer than this machine, maybe by a decade, possibly more. And for whatever reason, the guy in his spare parts bin gave me one of these extra pieces here. Let me see if I can angle it so you can see. And if you look at it, you notice the back, this corner here, which would be the top, it's at an angle. It's cut away. So what I was about to do with filing away this section here, the top section on this one, which is perfectly square. Let's see if you can see that square there. This one, which is off of 545, exact dimensions in every single way, except it has that cutout. So I don't know if Pfaff realized at some point that they were having the issue with the forward and reverse stitch lengths, and then the remedy was this new part, or what, because this is an older machine, same part, but it's missing this. So I figured, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot and see if it'll work. So I'll show you actually what ended up happening. So I slid it on, installed it the same way as I would the original piece. Spin the knob on, raise it up, grab this section here. So here's the cardboard. This is the original with that square block. You can see forward long, reverse short. I'm not gonna be able to match this exact, but I'll just show you the relationship. So forward, and I'll leave it in the same hole, bury it, and then I'll just go straight into reverse. And you can hear it, and you can see it too. It's going in the same hole every time. And the further out you go, obviously if the adjustment is slightly off, the longer you go in reverse, if there's just the tiniest bit of difference, it's going to start making itself apparent. You know, if you go back, 4 inches, very minute difference, it just compounds over the length of that. But if you're only going to go forward and reverse, you're talking about maybe doing the lock and stitch in the beginning and end of a run, or tacking something, you're talking maybe 4 or 5 stitches, 3, 4, 5, it depends on the situation. But you could see right there, I can just go forward, reverse, and then the key thing is making sure that the needle is buried when you go to do this, when you go to switch between forward and reverse. And if you look, I just went over that multiple times. It's the same hole every time, so I know that my stitch length forward and reverse is now perfectly matched up. And I was lucky that I had that piece. If it wasn't for the replacement piece from the Pfaff 545, I would have been filing. But at least I know that that's the solution. And I was happy that I was able to fix that problem without actually having to modify anything. Now, if you're having the same issue and you've gone through the timing on the feed dogs and everything, and you haven't had any luck, I would encourage you to try this modification. So what you would want to do is basically file starting from the front edge. See if I can, right there, this front edge. You're going to file, start from here. You don't need to go all the way in. I mean, you're going to have to go here, but file, there's no, it doesn't come in contact for this center section, right? Because it's cut away in the center. It only comes in contact with that stop on the right and left side. So you don't need to file this whole thing across. You just need to file the 2 outside edges from where it contacts. And just run a file and just try to get it consistent as possible, and basically go from the bottom edge here, the bottom left, or the facing on the side of the machine, and just file straight up and just kind of work your way into it. So slowly take away material and just test it out. You don't want to overdo it. If you go too far, then you're going to have your reverse stitch length longer than your front, and then there's nothing you can do about it at that point unless you start filing on the bottom, and then you could see how that could go south real quick. So just work up to it, creep up on it, and slowly angle it in, starting from the bottom corner. And this one looks like it's the one that works on my machine, stopped short maybe a millimeter. But yeah, so give it a shot. Hopefully it'll work if you're having problems. But yeah, so that was my solution. And then now my forward and reverse stitch lengths match up perfectly, and the machine runs well. So hopefully that'll help you out if you're having issues with timing of your feed dogs. And then if you're having issues with the forward and reverse stitch length, consider filing away very lightly the edges of that stop block in the back, that guide block, and that might be the solution to your problem. So I don't know, I just thought I would share and hopefully save somebody else a headache who may be having similar issues with the same machine. So, all right, thanks guys.